Welcome to the 5th episode of my Wellness Breathing Stretching channel. In this episode, I'll tell you how to constrict your throat during exhalation in order to slow down the exhalation in the context of the extended exhalation breathing technique. To learn more about the foundation and the performance of the extended exhalation breathing technique, please listen to episode 1 of this podcast. In case you chanced upon this episode without previous exposure to the extended exhalation breathing technique, here is a brief summary. In extended exhalation breathing, we take a deep inhalation through our nose, followed by a slow and long exhalation, again through our nose, and then we add an interval of suspension of breath. We repeat this sequence of inhalation, exhalation, and suspension as long as we wish. The slow and long exhalation is the most salient part of this breathing technique, thus giving it its name, extended exhalation breathing. The problem with extending our exhalation is that we often emit a larger amount of air at the beginning of the exhalation, and then we gradually lose our blowing force till we finally get out of breath. This is especially true when we try to extend our exhalation not only at rest, as in meditation, but also when we're physically active, as in walking or running. The way to control the amount of air emitted during exhalation is to physically narrow or constrict our throat. In pranayama, the breathing branch of yoga, this manipulation of our throat is called Ujjayi breathing, which means victorious breathing, because when we use it, we overpower the default course of breathing. When we listen to the sound that accompanies our Ujjayi breathing, we hear a quiet whisper, similar to the whisper of the ocean that we hear when we put a seashell near our ear. This is why Ujjayi breathing is sometimes called ocean breathing. How do we produce this Ujjayi constriction of the throat? One way is to think of the sound you make when you try to fog up a glass window. Go ahead and do it a number of times. As if you pronounce H-A, but with a harsh H. Now softly shut your lips and produce this sound again, letting the air through your nose. It's the same harsh H followed by an M. Congratulations! You've just performed Ujjayi exhalations. You have partly blocked the passage of the airflow in your throat. Another way to produce this sound is to clear your throat. Clear your throat a number of times. Now try to clear your throat without using your vocal cords. That is, do it by whispering. Congratulations again, this was an Ujjayi exhalation. You can now, just for the experience, get your throat into the Ujjayi position and hold it as you breathe in and out several times. As you see, Ujjayi breathing can be performed in inhalation as well as in exhalation. Indeed, different pranayama exercises use Ujjayi breathing in either or in both inhalation and exhalation. However, in the extended exhalation breathing technique that I advocate here, we take a deep and satisfying inhalation without any blockage of the airflow. We partially block the flow of air through Ujjayi breathing only in our exhalation, so as to extend its duration. We can start using Ujjayi exhalation in a restful situation, such as breathing meditation. We use all three parts of the extended exhalation breathing technique, regardless of the Ujjayi exhalation. That is, inhalation, Ujjayi exhalation, and suspension of breath. Let us do this now. Get into a comfortable straight-up sitting position on a chair, pillow, or yoga mat. Take a deep, satisfying inhalation through your nose. Set up your throat in the Ujjayi form and exhale through your nose, listening to the quiet hissing of the waves of the ocean. At the end of the exhalation, suspend your breath for a short while. Repeat this sequence of inhalation, Ujjayi exhalation, and suspension of breath a few more times. You may notice now that your Ujjayi exhalation is more uniform than your ordinary exhalation. The air you emit flows out with the same force and at the same speed throughout the exhalation. From the relatively effortless Ujjayi exhalation done in a seated position, we now proceed to the Ujjayi exhalation during walking. In vigorous walking, we experience a stronger urge to quickly expel the air from our lungs. But as we noted at length in the earlier episodes of this podcast, retaining carbon dioxide in our lungs builds our breathing stamina and increases the tolerance of our body to handle higher levels of carbon dioxide without experiencing discomfort or negative symptoms. One of the ways to retain carbon dioxide in our lungs is to lengthen our exhalation and to even it out, namely to prevent the air from bursting out at the beginning of the exhalation. Once you have sufficiently practiced Ujjayi exhalation in a seated position, and you have the know-how of doing it at rest, it's time for you to attempt it under physical effort. You may recall from earlier episodes that during walks, we measure our breathing with steps. We want our total number of steps during a full cycle of inhalation, exhalation, and suspension to be an uneven number. We count exhalation and suspension together. So a 2:5 ratio would mean that we, for example, inhale over 2 steps, exhale over 3, and suspend our breath over another 2 steps. On the level part of my walking path, I usually inhale over 2 steps and exhale over 11 steps, the last 2 or 3 steps being dedicated to a suspension of breath. In order to be able to maintain an exhalation of 5, 7, or 9 steps, I have to restrict the amount of air coming out at the beginning of my exhalation. And this is where Ujjayi breathing really comes in handy. No special or different instructions are needed here. Just go out, take an energetic walk, and do it. Many of the issues of the extended exhalation breathing technique, which I discussed here in passing, are thoroughly treated in earlier episodes. I suggest that you listen to them as well. I hope that you enjoyed listening to this episode. If so, why not spread the word and share my podcast channel with friends and colleagues? I'll be very glad to hear from you about your experiences with Ujjayi exhalation, both at rest and during physical activity. You can leave a comment on my Wellness Breathing Stretching podcast channel. One way of hearing about my forthcoming episode is to check the follow or subscribe button on your podcast application. So long, and see you again on future episodes.